Hello, Home Slices. It's Kira with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for the series finale of Iyanla Fix My Life, Season 8, Episode 13, entitled An Open Letter to All Black Men. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you all, I am so saddened. I'm deeply saddened by the fact that we unfortunately have the end of a show that we have watched for 8 years now. Iyanla Fix My Life has been a joy to watch. It has been the most, I don't want to say wholesome because that has a weird connotation to it. It has been an emotionally charged journey. I have cried several times watching this show, whether it's because I had, empathy or sympathy for these people, whether it's something that touched me in my life or a lesson that I learned from watching Iyanla. It has just been an emotionally charged relationship. And now Iyanla's breaking up with us to go off and do whatever she wants to do. And while I think that it's probably a good decision, that I really do think that she has really done all that she can really do with Iyanla Fix My Life. Apparently, there have been 134 episodes of this show. When you think about the people who have gone on the shows, she's probably helped over 300 people, maybe, over the course of the time that she's done this show. But when you think about the millions of people who have watched the show, she's helped so many more than that. So I think that she is doing, her life's work, and now she's going to do it in a different form, whatever that form takes. And again, I'm very sad about it, okay? I'm very sad. So I have been trying to savor every moment. Let's go ahead and jump into this review, the final review, the series finale review for Iyanla Fix My Life. Again, I'm very saddened by this. We have a family that is having issues after the death of the wife and mother, whose name I cannot remember for whatever reason. But we have a father and two sons who recently, in the past 4 years, experienced a death in the family, the death of their mother and wife. And the two sons are having trouble. They're going down the wrong path. They are doing illegal activities. They're hanging out with the wrong crowd. They are lying manipulators, some of them. And so this is what we're here to figure out. So yeah, I like the fact that for the series finale, basically what Iyanla was doing was taking I don't know what this is. Whatever, drop something on my shirt. What Iyanla is doing. So I like what Iyanla is doing with this series finale. She's taking something that is an issue with this family and she is expanding it to the entire Black male community. This idea that there's a system that's set up it's the school to prison pipeline, where basically throughout the systems that are in our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools are set up to discipline Black males harder than they discipline students of other races, expel them, suspend them, and basically get them used to the idea of being expelled or suspended or in trouble, which in turn leads them to being incarcerated, which is a more mature and exaggerated form of expulsion or being suspended. So, yeah, that's what the school to prison pipeline was about. If you all haven't seen, I think it's Ava DuVernay's documentary. I believe it's called The 13th. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's about the school to prison pipeline. I've seen it before. It was just a few years ago. So check that out if you're interested in learning more about that. But it's a very real thing. It exists. For people who claim that there is no such thing as systemic oppression, you think about a child going to kindergarten. There's Dr. Steve Perry, who is a part of the show because he has been kind of a male influence kind of consultant that Iyanla brings along to talk to some of the men that come through the Iyanla Fix My Life program. And Steve Perry said that as a kindergartner, he was expelled. And when you think about a kindergartner, they are 5 years old. And this idea that a Black child who is acting in whatever type of way has no amount of forgiveness, no amount of figuring out what's going on with this child, and let's help them change their behavior, see why they're acting out, if they're even acting out at all. And there's no real patience or understanding for when Black children mess up. And that's one of the things that I really have a problem with, is that when you think about white children who get into trouble, they have people who are they sometimes have people who are influential in their lives that can get them out of trouble. Their dad's a lawyer. Their mom knows this person. Their dad is a golf buddy with a politician. And when you think about the young man whose name doesn't come to mind because it's not worth remembering, the young man who was at, I think it was Princeton, who was caught in the act of sexually assaulting a young girl and didn't get any jail time because he, his future would be ruined. When you think about those type of people, it's like, this is a white guy it's very rare in sexual assault cases for there to not be more than he said, she said. But he's physically caught by two eyewitnesses sexually assaulting a young lady. And a white judge takes pity on this young man, on this rapist, because he feels like this white boy's future is more important than protecting the rights of the young woman who was assaulted, or validating the fact that two, I believe they were foreign students who caught him doing this thing. So there's just a big discrepancy in figuring out who deserves mercy and who deserves forgiveness and who deserves another chance and who deserves getting help with their mental health as opposed to punitive measures. This is going to be a long review, y'all. I haven't even got to the beginning. I haven't even told y'all their names and we already get into the prison pipeline. Okay, let me get myself together. So again, Dr. Steve Perry is there. Are they setting him up to have his own Steve Perry Fix My Life? He has been kind of marginally involved in some of the previous episodes, but he was very involved in this particular one. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the title, right, is this like open letter to all Black men, and she needed to have a Black man influencer, right, influence there to help these Black men and hold them accountable in a way that wouldn't be the same if it came from Iyanla, right? However, at one point, Dr. Steve Perry had his own little confessional where he was, doing his talks like Iyanla does, right? Like Iyanla has been doing her own little confessional, talk thingy for this whole season, right? And so they give Steve Perry a little confessional talk. And I'm like, is this some type of test run for him to have his own show? Because now that Iyanla is going off, y'all, I don't know what I'm going to do. Iyanla has been one of the things that has kept me on my YouTube channel because it has been such a positive influence in my life, something that I enjoy a lot. And it's one of the reasons why I keep coming back to my YouTube channel, even though I have like kind of a hectic schedule and things that are going on in my life. And it's like, I need to do these reviews to kind of get my thoughts out and process everything, right? So now that Iyanla is going off, I don't know that there's another show that I feel that strongly about that I can review every episode and have to process it, right? Because we consume so much television, we consume so many streamed movies and TV shows, and it's like, do those things actually add value to our lives? Do we actually learn anything from it? And so I don't know that there's another show that does that for me. But if Dr. Steve Perry want to have a show that has a similar concept or whatever, and if this was their way of kind of testing that, I'm 100% here for it. I'll at least watch it and see what happens, okay? Because I feel like it was really good on this part of the show. So that being said, we are 10 minutes into this review and I still haven't talked about the people. So this is going to be a long one. I want to apologize for that. Watch it in chunks if you need to, okay? So moving on. According to Dr. Steve Perry, 46% of students expelled or suspended from school are Black. They're being expelled as early as kindergarten. He was expelled in kindergarten, and expulsion is normalized through school, and it later manifests as incarceration when you become an adult. Black people are 50% of prison populations, and I feel fairly certain in saying that there is virtually nowhere in the United States where Black men make up 50% of the population. So there is a very big discrepancy in determining who gets criminalized, who gets heavier sentences, who gets caught, who gets over-policed. So we know that these things are true. There are statistics to back them up. We have experienced these things ourselves. We are more likely to be pulled over. We are more likely to be charged with things. We're more likely to be charged with heavier sentences. And when it's time to get out of jail, the systems are not created for you to succeed and be rehabilitated. So it just creates this additional pipeline of once you're in jail, chances are you're going to go right back because the system is not set up for you to be a good civilian once you get out of prison. So that's just the thing. And these two young men are headed straight into that system, are currently in the pipeline and are very close to being at the other end of it. Okay. So we have David Sr., we have Lawrence, who is the older son, who was adopted when he was 6 months old. Lawrence seems to not be as far in the pipeline as the younger son, David Jr. Lawrence has a deeper relationship with his father. We have David Jr., who is further along in the pipeline. He's a little bit more reckless than the older son. He was a mama's boy, and his mother passed away about 4 years ago. And right now he is 17 years old, and he's just a few credits shy away from earning his high school diploma, but he has been not paying attention, not getting his stuff done, and he is flunking one grade, and it doesn't look like he's going to finish school on time if he continues down this route. So come to find out that the mom who passed away from pancreatic cancer was the disciplinarian. When she got sick, their dad was taking care of her as she was dying. She was very reliant on him. He had to be a very focused and dedicated caretaker. So that meant that his attention was off of the boys, and the boys just kind of fended for themselves. And not only that, there really was no conversation about what was happening to their mother. So if this happened 4 years ago, it means that Lawrence was 15, 16. Lawrence was 16, and David Jr. was 13. And so you have these teenage boys who are experiencing the decline of their mother, and nobody tells them why. One of them sees some hair falling out in the shower. The other one sees that she's just kind of deteriorating and not able to do things for herself. And nobody sits them down and has a conversation about what's going on, how long this process is going to be. I mean, I just really don't get it. Like, it seems silly that not talking about something means that it goes away. That just doesn't make sense to me. And so you have these children who are using the streets as an escape from this reality that they actually don't really know a lot about. And they are taking advantage of the fact that their father is not the disciplinarian. They're taking advantage of the fact that our dad's attention is elsewhere while he's caring for our mother who is sick, because nobody has told us that, like, the severity of how sick she is. We don't know if this is something she's going to recover from, if this is something that she's going to die from, how much time we have with her. And so their response is to go out in the streets. And can you blame them? You have two young teenage boys who apparently are not really being guided at this point. They're not even being informed about what's going on with their mother, and they turn to the streets, and now things have gotten out of hand. They're way down in the prison pipeline, and Iyanla is here to help. Okay. So anyways, Iyanla admitted, surprisingly, that she has a 26-year-old grandson that she raised that is in jail. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't do anything super, super bad, but he's in jail because of stupidity. Is that what she said? Some stupidity is probably what she said. I don't remember for sure. But Iyanla is trying to save these boys from the same fate. So I think this is a little personal for her. And she was saying that they can't afford to be reckless. And that's what I was talking about earlier. When you are a Black person in America, you already have this stamp of being a criminal, or a stamp of being a bad person or not being intelligent. And you cannot afford to live up to those expectations. Iyanla starts to weave this narrative about a passport and about traveling. And I think that that's really important, because one of the things that frustrates me as a person who likes to travel, who likes to go different places, who likes to get out there. I grew up in Houston, went to school in Louisiana. After Louisiana, I moved to Washington State. I've traveled to different places in the world, not out of this hemisphere, but I've been to different countries and whatnot. Been to Mexico a few times, the Virgin Islands, stuff like that. And so for me, I like to travel. I like to get out there. I like to be worldly, right? I like to see the world. And I plan to continue doing that, especially as I, get, more money, right? Now that I'm about to graduate with my MBA. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of the reasons I think that it was an appropriate choice of an illustration for Iyanla, because one of the reasons why men fall into this prison pipeline is because they cannot even begin to imagine what opportunities are out there and what parts of the world that they can explore in their minds and in the real world. And that's one of the things that's really why representation is so important. Traveling is so important. Seeing how different people live, learning about different customs and different religions and different foods is so important, because it shows you what is possible. It shows you what is out there, and it makes it seem like, okay, well, I can attain this. And by just staying in the St. Louis, Missouri area, their minds are only as big as their surroundings and what they can see. And what Iyanla is trying to do is open up their minds, open up their world, and saying, we're going to get you some more stamps in your passport. The passport, not only for you to actually travel about the country, right? But the passport of your mind and the passport of where you have been in your mind and where you can go in your mind. And we're going to give you tickets. And these tickets are either going to give you tickets to the prison end of the pipeline, or it's going to give you tickets to the education side of the pipeline where knowledge is power. And that knowledge is going to empower you to move through and get to the places you want to go, both in your mind and physically. So I like that illustration. Okay, personally. So anyways, so she gives the dad, David Sr., some tickets. One of the tickets is fear. And he says that he doesn't want to live the same way. Iyanla was like, if you don't want to live, just say that and we can deal with it. But he wouldn't admit that. He was saying he just didn't want to live the same way. Another ticket said broken heart. So all of these tickets are tickets that are taking him to places that he doesn't want to go, right? So Iyanla puts her bosom on the back of his head and saying, the reason why you can't get out of this rut is because you're not all the way going into your grief, okay? He can't solve these issues. Iyanla says you're mad at God and you're not acknowledging it. And so we find out that he's a pastor and he feels like his reward for being a faithful servant is the fact that he lost his best friend. And so there is this, feeling of being mad at God and he has to resolve that, right? So I think it's interesting. Like a lot of people who go through traumatic events like this feel like they have to put on a brave face. And so they are grieving, but they're not grieving all the way. They're not giving themselves permission to go all the way there. There's the saying about the good thing about hitting rock bottom is that there's only one way to go, and that's up. And it's like he hasn't hit his rock bottom yet. And he's using his children as an excuse to why he has to keep things together. But keeping things together the way that they are now is not good because things aren't good. Like things are not good now, so why would you want to keep them that way? So moving on, Iyanla brings in Dr. Steve Perry. Steve Perry was letting him have it. He said, all I heard out of your mouth was a bunch of excuses. The dad was saying he didn't want his kids to be upset. And Dr. Perry was saying, set and keep your expectations, set consequences, give your children things to work forward to. And one of the things that he said that I really thought was really good was discomfort is an investment. And that is really a big part of why I am where I am. Again, I'm not saying that I'm living the best, but we bought a house. Me and my fiance bought a house before we were 30. I'm just a few weeks away from graduating with my MBA, my master's in business administration. I have a good job that I've had for multiple years now, and I'm getting ready to change careers as I get my degree. My fiance and I travel every once in a while. We have a dog. We have a nice life. And when I think about the times that I've had to experience discomfort, mainly while, working while going to school, both for undergrad and graduate school, that level of discomfort is an investment in my comfortability in the future. And it's about to pay off. And so for me, that was really I identified with the saying that discomfort was an investment in the future. And I appreciated that. But what he meant for this man in particular, David Sr., was that your discomfort with upsetting your children is an investment in them learning from their mistakes and doing better. And I think that's a good thing, that parents are so concerned with pleasing or upsetting their children that they don't provide any structure or don't make those children into good citizens as adults. Moving on. So let's talk about Lawrence. So we have Lawrence. He's the oldest of the two boys. He's 20 years old. Iyanla brings him in, shows him a map, and wants him to think outside of his town. He learns about the pipeline, and he actually has to get into it. He has dreams of returning to school. So part of Lawrence's work is clearing up why he's not able to get to the places that he wants to go in life. So Iyanla was saying one slip up and they got you. And that's so true. So basically he said that he's good with his dad and that he's not so good on good terms with his brother. And later we find out that the reason why he's good with his dad is because his dad lets him get away with manipulating him. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So we talk about, Lawrence talks about David Jr. He basically says that David Jr. has been acting out, that his grief has manifested as fighting, and basically said that their dad had a heart attack while he was trying to break up a fight between them. Are you freaking kidding me? Your dad has you lost your mom. Your dad has a heart attack while trying to break up a fight between the two boys and they still can't get their act together. What the heck? Okay. So basically, he was saying that with his mom, the disciplinarian gone, he started selling drugs. His car got shot up. And at this point, when I was writing my notes, I was like, okay, Lawrence seems to be a little bit different than his brother. And they are very different, we found out. But according to Lawrence, that situation stopped him from doing the whole drug thing again. Like, ain't nobody finna be shooting my car up. I almost died. I had to save my friend's life. So it seemed like he had learned a lesson. And now that I know what I know after watching the whole episode, I don't know how truthful he was being about that particular instance teaching him his lesson. Okay, so we'll see. So he claims that that incident changed his life, and that even though he's not doing great, that he's learned from that experience. So we'll see. So now he says that he has a baby on the way. And his dad is listening in the background. And he's like, you don't have no baby on the way. What is he talking about? We'll get back to that later. But his dad doesn't know that he has a baby on the way. Okay, moving on. So Iyanla gives him tickets. The tickets are unsafe sex, weapons possession, lying. He acknowledges being a liar. Okay, like he's like, yeah, I'm a liar. Okay, so he acknowledges that. He says that he wants more. He wants to be a police officer or a firefighter. So that is a thing, right? So anyways, enter Dr. Perry. Dr. Perry enters. He basically says you had a 2-parent household, educated parents. Your mom was a nurse, your dad was a teacher. 2-parent household. Why are you in the hood? You grew up in the suburbs. Why are you in the hood? Basically, he didn't feel supported at school. He has limiting beliefs about his attention span. And Dr. Perry shuts that down. He was like, you were just sitting here talking to Iyanla for a long time. You didn't have no attention span problems. So that's a lie. And basically, it's not about attention span, it's about interest. And he says being with people who have small minds will hold you back. And I think that's very true. So he's like, we need to figure out some job goals for you. I'm gonna give you some homework. His homework was to figure out when the civil service test was to be a police officer or a firefighter. Tell him when the test would be. And there was something else as well. I can't remember what it was. All right, so next we get to David Jr. David Jr. has dreams of traveling as well. He's trying to go to Brazil to see the beautiful women. He knows that he is more reckless than his brother, and that's why he is further down the pipeline than his brother is. He says that he's about 3 years out from jail, even though the rest of them feel like he isn't, that he's a little closer than 3 years. But we get down to the tickets. Iyanla says, you're hanging with the wrong crowd. You got weapons possession. You got truancy. You're disrespecting your dad. You're disrespecting your mother's memory. And then one of the tickets says, help me. And she says, do you really want to be helped? And he says, yes. And David Sr. doesn't believe him. So anyways, Iyanla changed her approach with David compared to the way she spoke with Lawrence. Lawrence was a little bit older. He's out of the house, has a different attitude. With David, she smacked him on his butt. She was yelling at him. She kind of like became a little bit more drill sergeant with David than she did with Lawrence. And I think it's important to understand that when you have 2 children, even if they grow up in the same household, are differences in what works and what's effective for each children. So sometimes you have to cater your approach, right? So I thought that was interesting. So Iyanla asked him a question like, are you going to blow your opportunity to see the world, to travel, to do the things you love on just a handful of credits, 2 credits? Are you going to blow that opportunity to do anything that you want to do in this world for 2 credits in high school? And I think that that's like, sometimes we just got to reframe it and say it's as easy at the next step for you is as easy as getting 2 more credits in high school. You are clearly educated. You're clearly a smart boy. Apparently he was in all like AP classes. So he's very intelligent. It's probably nothing but just 6 months for him to get those credits. And when you frame it like that, it makes more sense, I think personally. So in comes Dr. Perry. I think he's very good. So basically he started talking to David. David basically said, I was in AP classes. School wasn't fun. So I got into the streets, and the streets was fun until I started losing friends left and right. So he acknowledges that he's a follower. And Dr. Perry said, there's nothing wrong with that. You just got to make sure you're following the right people. And I think that's a great lesson. Everybody cannot be a leader. Everybody is not leadership material. You can learn to be a leader if that's what you want to do or what you feel like you are called to do. But The world needs followers. If everybody is a leader, nothing gets done. The world needs followers. There's nothing wrong with being a follower. The problem is you have to make sure that the leader you choose is the right person. And so I thought that was a good lesson. So he gave him some action items to take care of, that he needed to email his teachers and figure out what he needed to do to make sure that he graduated. So I think he gave him something else to do too, but I can't remember. So now we have Donna. Donna's the person who wrote into Iyanla Fix My Life. She is David Sr.'s sister and the aunt to the two boys. She talks about how David has had 2 heart attacks. I'm assuming that they have happened since his wife died. And she says that David Jr. listens but is not accountable. Also, she finds out that her nephews did not know about their mother's health condition at all. So Iyanla puts all the family together. This is the moment where I was like, okay, something's wrong with Lawrence. The whole pregnancy thing came up again. And Lawrence was like, I was planning on telling them later. And when he said that, I was like, something wrong with him. He came across as very intelligent and very willing and very understanding when he was talking to Iyanla the first time. This is where he got ridiculous and where we really got to see his true colors come to light, okay? I was hoping I was going to tell them down the line. And it's like, nigga, when the baby was 3? What are you talking about? And this should have been a clue that the pregnancy was a hoax, which we find out at the end of the show that old girl was never pregnant, okay? Why would he even why would he be a pathological liar like that to just make up the fact that his girlfriend was pregnant? What is the benefit of that? I don't know. Anyways, so he said he doesn't want to talk about it right now. And I was like, something wrong with Lawrence. Okay, so Lawrence feels like that there's always criticism and negativity. But David Sr. is like, I view it as accountability. And Dr. Perry is like, if you spent their whole lives never holding them accountable, and now you're holding them accountable, they're like, where is this coming from? They perceive it as criticism instead of accountability. So you can't just all of a sudden become a responsible parent and then be like, hey guys, be responsible now, and expect them to just receive it the way that he's giving it, right? So anyways, there was an issue that came up about Lawrence not paying his dad back for getting his car fixed, and Lawrence acknowledged that he didn't pay his dad back the way he said he would. So he was like, well, if you have money, one of your other things on your to-do list is to pay your dad back. So get on that, do that. So Lawrence agrees. I'm gonna pay him back right away. Then the auntie does one of these noises. Oh, really? And so Dr. Perry checks her and she's like, this is what they're talking about when it comes to negativity. He's saying that he's going to do something, that he's going to take responsibility, that he's going to go through with something he said he was going to do. And then your disbelief and your trepidation comes out. And it comes across as negativity because it's a disbelief. You don't believe in him. And it's like, you can at least feign believing in him so that he doesn't have to feel like, oh, I'm just going to do what she's like. I'm living up to what this person thinks of me as a person who's not reliable or keeps their word. So, David Jr. feels like nobody's listening to him because he's not interested in being a teacher or a preacher. He's just not interested in following that path. And then, like I said, Dr. Perry gets his own little confessional, and I'm like, if he's a new Iyanla, let's do it, okay? Having a male Iyanla would be a change of pace. It would be very interesting. I don't know that Dr. Steve Perry has the same long-standing history that Iyanla has. But I have enjoyed him, and I think that he's been very good on this show in particular. So next we see is the next day, Lawrence is acting sick. And where is he sick at? It starts in his stomach, then it goes to his chest, then he's nauseous and feverish, and then his right toe hurts, and then his elbow fell off. It's like all of these silly little things start happening, all these different symptoms all over his body that are clearly not in alignment. They have an on-set medic who's checking him. His heart rate is good. He ain't got no fever. His temperature is good. There's no throwing up. There's no symptoms or vital signs or anything that are checking out with his story. So Iyanla's very clear that whatever is going on here is manipulation. Okay, this is manipulation at its finest, and it is so childish. kids who have like they don't want to face a bully in school, so they pretend to be sick. But in this, or they have like a homework assignment they didn't do, so they pretend to be sick. This particular thing is very childish. He didn't do his homework. He didn't look up any of the stuff that he was asked to look up by Dr. Perry. He did not pay his dad back. Iyanla was very clear about it, and she moved on with her life and started talking to Miss Donna. Okay. But Iyanla says that she thinks that he is a hustler. She feels like he acknowledged very quickly at being a liar. She says that she thinks that he's doing this so that she can't call him out while he's ill, and wondering if they feel like their dad gave up on them, and that this is a cry for help. So the dad is saying he doesn't know. He doesn't want to say if he believes that his son is faking or not. And David Sr. is just too concerned with how his children are going to respond. David Jr., however, did well. He sent the email, so that's good. Then they start talking about adoption. So Lawrence was adopted at 6 months, and they did not tell him he was adopted until he was 10 years old. So Lawrence is thinking for 10 years, I'm a part of this family. These are my biological family members, my brother, my mom, my dad. And then he gets hit with this bomb at 10 years old that you are adopted. And that can be othering, because David Jr., at first I kind of wondered, I was like, why is David Jr. named Jr. and why isn't Lawrence, the older one, named Lawrence? And we learned about that pretty quickly, but it's like, it can be othering to be the only adopted person in the family and to believe something for 10 years and then be told that it's a lie and then assume that your parents are liars. And that may be where his lying comes from. So that's what Iyanla was talking about. And then they didn't even tell the younger brother until he asked if his older brother was adopted. So there's like a history of not saying things. And the problem is that not saying things is worse than saying things, because it allows people to make up what they want in their minds and then feel betrayed when they learn the truth. So moving on, there was a lot of mishandling with that situation, but we see Iyanla talking to Dr. Perry, and Dr. Perry thinks that their dad has a history of avoiding problems, and I think that's true. They add David Jr. into the mix. He's all smiles. He's proud of doing what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to see the world as his opportunity and to have hope, and Iyanla gives him the map. They talk a little bit about Lawrence. David Jr. says, I don't trust Lawrence. He has fought with Lawrence's friends who are a number of years older than him. There's even been a situation where Lawrence and one of his friends basically jumped little David. So that's messed up. Lawrence doesn't claim him as his brother, and there's been a lot of sibling rivalry, and Iyanla says that's usually jealousy, just coming out in the form of sibling rivalry. So David Sr. talks with Lawrence, and it feels obvious that Lawrence is lying when they're doing that FaceTime call, and David Sr. is still choosing to reserve judgment. Okay, whatever. So David Jr. is mad at Lawrence for being a manipulator and manipulating their dad, and their dad going along with it. He doesn't feel like his dad has his back. He feels like his brother and his dad gang up on him. And then Dr. Perry starts avoiding some of those past tickets that Iyanla gave him. Iyanla says that she's done with Lawrence. She really believes that he's lying. If he's sick, he don't need to be back here, okay, during the time of Corona, which I agree with. And because I think he's lying, I don't think it'll be good for me to put him on camera right now. And that's one of the things I like about Iyanla. She holds steadfast to all of her inklings and feelings and intuition and all that type of stuff. So moving on, we got the two Davids sitting down together, David Sr. and David Jr. David Jr. says dad doesn't listen, and he acknowledges his wrongdoing. And here we go. David Sr. says, well, I can't parent how you want me to parent. And Dr. Perry and Iyanla disrupt this behavior. And they're basically saying, by responding the way you responded, you are dismissing and disrupting the connection that he is trying to build with you, and you're also being dismissive of his point, which is invalidating him. And the result is he shuts down and doesn't open up to you anymore. He's just an old dog and needs to learn some new tricks and work on his parenting skills. So David Sr. talks about his childhood a little bit. I don't know, thinking about the history of this family and how they routinely don't talk about things that are actually kind of important. I don't know that little David had ever heard about Big David's dad. Come to find out, when Big David was 13, his father had a nervous breakdown. He wasn't the same person that he used to be anymore. He had to be taken away to a mental institution. And when they brought him back on meds, he was not the same person anymore. And this has a stark parallel to David's own life and dealing with, his mother died when he was 13 and his dad wasn't the same person anymore. So it's very similar to David Jr.'s experience. David Jr. says that before our mom died, our dad was stronger and me and my brother had broken him down. And he acknowledges his wrongdoing and his responsibility in that. And his dad thanks him for that. David Sr. opens up about, like, when your mom died, I wanted to die with her. And I think that was a real powerful acknowledgement. He said that he had never told anybody that before. And David Jr. was saying, like, we kind of figured that you didn't have to tell us that, but it was good for David Sr. to actually share that with his son when he has a history of avoiding those type of topics. So I thought that was good. And he talked about promising his wife that both the kids would graduate from high school. Now that part, I was like, is he just saying that so old boy will graduate from high school because he thinks that was his mom's dying wish? That part I wasn't sure about. That felt a little manipulative, like a little bit. Okay, there was some doubt that came into my mind at that moment. But anyways, they get interrupted at this moment with a report from the hospital about slick ass Lawrence slithering out of the hospital. They find out that he refused treatment when he got to the hospital, that he was basically ready to go home. He did not see a doctor. There were no tests run, no x-rays, no nothing. And this is confirmation that David Sr. is being played, okay? And so David Jr. is like, I've been telling you that this is what's going on with Lawrence, and you have been ignoring me. Not only ignoring me, but attacking me for it, basically. And Iyanla says, when you have somebody who's not being heard, they yell. And then when they're not being heard, when they're yelling, they act out, and then they destroy stuff. So you have this person who has this history of not being heard, and now things have escalated all the way up to this point. Moving on. Lawrence needs help. Something's wrong with him. He's either a compulsive liar and needs help with some pathological lying, or he is purposefully doing this to get attention and it's a cry for help. So either way, he needs help. So David Sr., Dr. Perry calls him online for being gullible. And Dr. Perry says, it's not true. Your son has a history of lying. That he has played you before over and over again. And that your son has been warning you about it. So you for sure know, because David Jr. has told you that he's been lying to you. What's wrong with you is that you are purposefully not wanting to see an issue, because if you don't see the issue, then it's not there. And out of sight, out of mind does not work in those situations. So Dr. Perry called him out, and I was like, go ahead, call him to the carpet, okay? So at the end, we start voiding all of these tickets. Iyanla gives out good tickets to David Jr. about self-control, getting a high school diploma, college or career training, being talented. And then we have Dad, who has his tickets of family, faith, community, patience, and being loving. And then she also has good tickets to give to Lawrence, but he ain't coming back on my show, so y'all make sure he get those. And at the end of the show, we get the post-credit updates, right? And so we have... they seem to be doing better. David Sr. is parenting better and creating better boundaries. David Jr. is, on track to get his high school diploma. Lawrence is doing better as well. Donna is keeping in touch with them to make sure they have a good feminine role model in their lives. And come to find out, Lawrence's girlfriend was never pregnant. Whoop-de-woo. Okay, and manipulator. Okay, so something wrong with Lawrence, y'all. At first I was like, he's the older brother, he got some sense. And then shortly after, we're like, okay, we figure out who you are. We see your true colors shining through, Lawrence. Okay, I was manipulated as well into thinking that you were the good brother. Okay, come to find out, David Jr. had more sense. Yikes. So anyways, that's the end of this, y'all. I feel upset, y'all. I feel upset by the fact that I have to live in a world without Iyanla Fix My Life. What is a good substitute? If you're still here watching this video, let me know what you think a good substitute, a new show that would be a good substitute for this. A show that's not just on TV just to be on TV, just to be entertaining. A show that has like some real like reflection work to go along with it. Do you all know of another show like that? Because I don't. I think Iyanla might have been the only one, and I'm just so sad that it's over. So Dr. Steve Perry, y'all don't say Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil don't be hitting like Iyanla personally. So Yeah, that's that. But Dr. Perry, if you're out there, ask OWN to give you your own show, okay? If it's not already in the works, okay? Do it. Do it. We need this. Okay. So, anyways, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And goodbye to Iyanla Fix My Life Forever. Peace out, home slices.